Will Zohran Mamdani become the next mayor of New York City, or will he be beaten by Cuomo at the 11th hour? We don't know yet, but what we do know is tonight we are going to be debating This House is Terrified of Mayor Mamdani about the future of New York. We've got Sarab, our US editor, moderating an all-star debate this very evening in New York itself, right in the heart of the action. So join us, go to unherd.com/live, become a subscriber, and whether you're on our side of the pond or theirs, you can watch the whole event as it happens as part of your subscription to UnHerd. And you'll get everything else that UnHerd has to offer. That's long-form journalism, documentary films, podcasts, and so much more. Go to unherd.com/live and become a subscriber now.
So, greetings and welcome to UnHerd's US headquarters. I'm Sarab Amari, our US editor, and I'm delighted to moderate tonight's debate on the resolution resolved. This House is terrified by Mayor Mamdani. But first, a bit about UnHerd. Founded in Britain, UnHerd makes it our mission to challenge herd mentality, hence the name, wherever we see it, to speak for people who are otherwise dismissed, to challenge lazy consensus, to make the argument for dimensions of existence that are lost in the din. And we seek out thinkers who can bring the broader wisdom of history, philosophy, and science and religion to bear on the day's headlines. In January this year, we launched the US edition of UnHerd to translate the same editorial vision across the Atlantic. Since then, we've recruited a stable of heterodox columnists whom you'd never find under the same masthead at any other publication. These include Glenn Lowry, Michael Lind, Ryan Zickgraf, my colleague and our senior editor Valerie Stiverts, Richard Hanania, Justin Vassallo, Matt Gazda, and joining us on the dais tonight, Ross Barkan. And there are many more to come. One of the signature aspects of UnHerd in Britain is our clubhouse at Old Clean Street, where, in addition to our editorial offices, we have a restaurant and a private club that's become a Westminster fixture, where on any given day you might catch members of the Starmer cabinet dining alongside the opposition. UnHerd debates in London are legendary. So as we expand in the United States, we're committing to making this space, still under construction as you can see, but wait till you see the finished version, a similar home for culture and ideas. So, on to tonight's debate. I've lived in New York City since 2012, although there was a little interval in London for 4 years there. And I can tell you we've never had such excitement locally and nationally around a mayoral election in Gotham. If polls are to be believed, Zohran Mamdani, a self-described democratic socialist, is poised to become the next mayor of the Big Apple. His history as a police abolitionist, his calls for wealth redistribution, and his fierce criticisms of Israel have rankled the city's old guard, while galvanizing many young Gothamites, including many young Jews. Should we be afraid of his mayoralty, or should we welcome it? Well, we've assembled a perfect panel to debate the question tonight. For the proposition that we should be afraid of Mayor Mamdani, we have my former colleague, and for my money, one of the country's best daily paper columnists, Miranda Devine of the New York Post. Joining her is Caroline Downey, staff writer for National Review, and a fellow parishioner of mine at the Church of St. Vincent Ferrer, though we don't usually go to the same mass. Against the motion, arguing that we shouldn't be afraid of Mamdani, is Ross Barkan, who, in addition to being a writer for UnHerd, is a columnist for New York Magazine and a contributor to the New York Times Magazine. Joining him is Lindsey Boylan, a former candidate for the city council and a former top staffer to Governor Andrew Cuomo, who blew the whistle on his sexual misconduct, ultimately leading to his early resignation from office. Please give them a round of applause. So when you arrived, we asked you for your initial position on the resolution tonight. We now have the early tally to report to you, and let me get it. Not all of you voted. Many of you were met. So of the ones who are committed to an answer, we had to really pry it out of some of you. 18 are yes, they are afraid of Mayor Mamdani, and 23 are no, they are not afraid of Mayor Mamdani. The winner of tonight's debate will be determined by the team that manages to shift the most votes. Here's how the mechanics will work. Each member of both teams will deliver a 5-minute opening statement in alternating order. So for the pro side, Caroline first, then Ross for con, meaning we should not be afraid of Mayor Mamdani, then Miranda for the pro side again, and then Lindsey for con. Then we will have a moderated discussion. I will pose some questions to both sides and invite some of you to pose questions as well. But the key point there, as usual you've heard, a question, not a speech. A question, not a speech. You can also make a point, but again, a point, not a speech. Then we will have closing statements in the alternate form again. This time it will go Miranda, Lindsey, Caroline, Ross. And then you will all vote again, and then we will drink. So without further ado, please join me one more time in welcoming Caroline Downey to the podium for the motion, We Should Be Afraid.
I love the glitter on the microphone. Well, thank you all so much for coming. A couple years ago, a recent graduate from college and a transplant to New York City from Florida, somebody has to move in the opposite direction, had a scary experience on the subway. I was getting out of the subway car at the 53rd and Lex station, and the only other person that was on that subway car followed me out, confronted me, cornered me on that platform. I sprinted as fast as I could to the other end of that platform. Must have been like 5 minutes I sprinted. It was pretty long. And thankfully there were multiple police officers there patrolling. I breathed a sigh of relief. I was shaken up, but I recovered, and I continued to take the subway as I do today. But I had this troubling, invasive thought in the days that followed. What if the cops had not been there? And what would this look like if Zohran Mamdani were elected mayor of New York City? The fact is that the cops were there, but I wouldn't have the confidence, would he be elected, that there would be that police presence. The fact is that Zohran Mamdani is no friend to the NYPD. He's not interested in beefing them up, even though they're already woefully understaffed. And when it comes to criminals, he's more interested in hand-holding than handcuffs. He has a philosophy of progressive law enforcement rather than actually deterring crime and arresting them. Now, I don't agree with Zohran Mamdani's politics. He's a socialist, self-professed. I am not. But the reason why I do not believe he's fit to be mayor of New York City is actually much more profound than that. And I can boil it down to one word, and that is confidence. Visitors, citizens, businesses, they all need confidence that they have the potential to flourish in this city. Without confidence, you have absolutely nothing. And with his radical promises and words, Zohran Mamdani has made it clear to business people, to landowners, to property owners, to Jews, to parents who recognize academic aptitude in their children at a young age, to young women like me who don't want to be harassed or worse, harmed on public transit, to law enforcement. Go pound sand. That's his message. Get lost. And so people are going to leave. And I would argue tonight that New York City cannot afford to have those important stakeholder groups leave. Now I'm going to go through each of them. The first is the wealthy, the affluent. He's promised that he wants to tax them into oblivion. Obviously, the Democratic governor, Kathy Hochul, she's concerned about her brand right now. She has vowed to refuse him and his ambitions for tax increases. I don't know if we should really trust that, however, that she's actually going to follow through on that. She did give in by endorsing him after all. And Kathy Hochul has already said, we are losing enough people already to Palm Beach. We can't afford to lose any more. She knows this is the city's lifeblood. We need those people to pay our bills. And Mamdani seems to forget that millionaires and money are mobile. They can go to the sunny shores of Florida and Texas, much more hospitable tax environments. They're not masochists. They don't have to lie down and take it. But it's not just the wealthy we should be concerned about. It's the blue-collar, salt of the earth, ordinary people. And when Zohran Mamdani attacks their employers, he's attacking their livelihoods. He's attacking their quality of life. Why wouldn't they just move to Long Island, where all the descendants of the voters for Rudy Giuliani went to 30 years ago? Now, Long Island is a pretty red enclave. They don't have to stay here either. There's families, parents with children, who, again, show academic excellence at a young age. By saying that he wants to get rid of the gifted program for kindergartners, he's not only attacking excellence, but he's attacking parents' rights to explore opportunities for their kids. You know, in New York, the mantra, kind of cliche, is you can be whatever you want to be. But Mamdani's message to families and their children is, you can be what I say you can be. So for him, his socialist agenda starts at age 5. Beyond that, it's cops. As I mentioned, law enforcement, if you don't have law and order, if you don't have enough cops on the beat, it greatly undermines confidence in this city. And has not minced words about the cops in the past. He's trying to walk back and distance himself from some of his past inflammatory comments about the police, whether it's that they're a fundamentally racist institution, the NYPD. That was a few years ago, but even as recently as 2023, on a panel with the Democratic Socialists of America, he said, if the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's being laced by the IDF, which of course was a very insulting remark to both police, but also to Jews, which brings me to my next stakeholder group that has no reason to be confident in New York City under a Mamdani regime. Jews make up, there's 12% of, there's like 12% New York City's population is Jewish people. It's like the largest outside of Israel. It's a really significant size. And just a few days ago, a rabbi, it was his first ever visit to New York City, he was sucker punched in the face, he alleges, by someone who allegedly pointed to his kippah and said, "What religion are you? What religion are you?" And they forcefully took it off, threw it on the ground, spat on it, and then punched him in the face. And he lamented the whole situation because, again, this is New York. New York is supposed to be a much more hospitable place, and we don't know if this guy was a madman, but I'm sure he's able to read the room just like anyone else, which is that the climate in this city is not good for Jews right now. And Mamdani, in his refusal both to condemn the phrase repeatedly, globalize the Intifada, but also in his apparently ignorance or just inability to answer on a very basic question of whether Hamas should lay down their arms. This is something he's been commenting on the entire campaign trail, suddenly was at a loss for words. Again, this is the terrorist organization of barbarians responsible for the most brutal attack on the Jews since the Holocaust, and he could not come up with an answer. Commuters is the last group I'll mention, and I'm a commuter. I think many of us in this room are commuters in New York City. We also have reason to believe that we'll be sitting ducks under Mamdani's administration. We know that he's going to open the doors to the subways to more homeless people by using some of the underutilized retail space. That, of course, is under the guise of compassion for the homeless population, but many of these very unwell people have violent predispositions, and we, the law-abiding, are gonna suffer as a result of that. So to many voters out there, there's a question implicit in Mamdani's message. Why would you want to stay in a city that doesn't want you? Again, cops. They could just go to Long Island and be cops. Well, they'll make a lot more money, and it'll be safer and less challenging of a job. Why do they have to stay here? But does he really care whether any of these stakeholders go anyway? Maybe not. Socialism rarely, if ever, lives up to its declared objectives, but it does have a funny way of allowing the ambitious to seize power, and I think that's what Mamdani is interested in at the end of the day, is power for himself and his cronies. Mamdani seems like someone who'd rather preside over decay. And if he declares ideological war on the people who hold this city together, decay is what we're going to get.
How do I respond to that? Ooh, 1 second. So I just want to say thank you for coming out tonight. I'm excited to be here. I've known Zohran Mamdani a long time, but I'm not going to speak to my relationship with him, speak more on the policy and the issues. And I'll say, just to reassure all of you, the communist re-education camp's not open in New York City till the 3rd week of January. So you're going to have 2 weeks to adjust. Sharia law February 1st, though. So again, 1 month. I think that's fair. I think that's reasonable. But seriously, folks, Zohran Mamdani is on the cusp of becoming the mayor of New York City. And so what we heard just here were a mixture of fact and fiction, right? What is he about versus what do people think he is about? And they're two very different things. So let's start. I'm gonna answer point by point, but we'll just go through the big basic campaign planks, some of which were notably left out, probably because they're popular and people want them. So one is universal childcare. Zohran Mamdani is proposing an expensive program, but one funded by a very small tax increase. Very small. We're talking raising the corporate tax slightly to match New Jersey's, a 2% increase in the top 1% to help pay for a universal child care program, 5 months to 5 years. So I can imagine all these stakeholders who are fleeing New York City, right? The whole idea is that Mamdani is going to chase them out. In fact, you might have the opposite problem. All these people wanting to come to New York City for the free child care. Free buses wasn't brought up. Some people like free buses, some hate them. The good news is, unlike child care, costs less than $1 billion a year. To put that in perspective, the New York state budget is $200 billion plus. Even the municipal budget is over $100 billion. Not too expensive. Free buses need approval by the state, but will help people get around. A lot of people jump the fare on the bus anyway, so might as well let working class people and the poor get around. By the way, this radical communist proposal is supported by Michael Bloomberg. He wanted to get it done, ran out of time in his 3rd term, but it's something he wanted to do. Didn't talk about freezing the rent stabilized apartments. About 40-something% of all rentals are rent stabilized. He's proposing something that other mayors have done before, again, helping working class and middle class tenants out. But I'll try to speak to the points brought up, which would really boil down to public safety and Jews. I am Jewish, and I take public safety seriously. And I believe Mamdani does as well, right? The resolution here, should you be afraid? Now, we're not making this who you should vote for, because I do think it's a bit unfair. I would put the onus on my opponents here to say who they actually want to be mayor instead, right? It's a choice. You can choose to sit out this election, fair, and don't begrudge people who don't vote. You vote for Andrew Cuomo or vote for Curtis Lewa. And because some Curtis supporters in the room or just Halloween aficionados, and we welcome all supporters in this democracy. So I think that's something, if you're going to argue against Mamdani, make an affirmative argument. Andrew Cuomo should be the mayor, or Curtis Lewa should be the mayor, if you think Mamdani can inspire confidence. But let's take this point by point. The public safety point. Public safety, obviously a very serious concern. Zohran Mamdani in the past supported defunding the police. That is inarguable. He said it. Many politicians said it. Even Andrew Cuomo in 2020 was flirting with it. He has recanted repeatedly. You can say he's being insincere. There's two arguments to make here. He's being insincere. When he gets in power, he's going to defund the police, or you acknowledge reality, that the climate has shifted. He has shifted, as politicians do, by the way. I was going to assume you're Donald Trump supporters, but maybe not. I'm just guessing. I think Donald Trump changes his opinions from time to time, I think. He's also said things, right? He's going to annex Greenland. He's going to annex Canada. Wants to grab women by the, what? Maybe, I don't know if he's still doing that. I have no idea. So Zohran Mamdani does not support defunding the police. In fact, he so much does not support defunding the police, he's defying DSA and his socialist brethren by announcing he wants to appoint Jessica Tisch to be police commissioner. Jessica Tisch, by the way, who is Jewish, who's a Zionist, who's a strong supporter of Israel. Zohran Mamdani said on the debate stage and told the media afterwards, this is his choice to be police commissioner. So you start there. This is someone who apparently doesn't care about public safety at all and wants criminals to run rampant on the subway and attack people, but then he wants Jessica Tisch to run the department. Doesn't really make sense. Is Jessica Tisch going to just enact a DSA agenda? Perhaps, maybe. But I think it shows already he's being very serious in who he's considering for his appointments. Let's take his public safety policy. He supports a Department of Community Safety. What is that, right? It's not defunding the police. It's simply allowing for mental health responders to join police to respond to certain calls. By the way, this program is implemented successfully in Oregon, in Colorado, in many other municipalities. New York, actually, until Eric Adams, had a pilot as well. And the truth is, if you talk to cops, which again, supposedly, this is the pro-cop side of things. I don't think that's really true. If you actually talk to police, which I've done, they'll tell you they don't want to respond to mental health calls. They want to do their job. They're not social workers, not psychiatrists. Yes, people experiencing mental health crises can be violent. That's why you pair a police officer with a mental health professional. It's very simple. It's very easy. And we've had many tragedies throughout the years with the NYPD where people experiencing mental distress, whether it's Deborah Danner, Wynn Rosario, have been killed by police. Oh, well, all right, I'll try to, got so much more to go. We'll go back to the Jewish thing quickly. Zohran Mamdani is not an anti-Semite. Criticizing Israel does not make you anti-Semitic. It's just like if you're Irish, for example, you criticize the new Irish president, who's a very pro-Palestine, actually. Does that make you anti-Irish? No, he said repeatedly he's going to stand up against anti-Semitism. He's visited many synagogues. He's attempted dialogue with Jews again and again. So just because one criticizes Israel doesn't make you an anti-Semite. And I'll say finally, just a correction of the matter, he never has used the phrase globalize the Intifada. He was asked on a podcast about it one time. This has not been part of his rhetoric, and he also disavowed it as well. So I'd love to speak forever and ever. I have much more to say, but I'll rest my case for now, and I'll be back.
Hi, thanks for being here. Just before I start, I wanted to let you know that in case you're wondering why an Australian is standing up here trying to tell you who to vote for or who not to vote for, I'm actually a native-born New Yorker. I was born in Queens, and so I have a profound duty of care, I feel, to the city of my birth and the city that I chose to come back to. And I have been in this city pre-Giuliani, in the bad old days when Times Square was a no-go zone, when Central Park was dangerous to go to, when the city was really like a Hobbesian hellhole. And then I lived here then, and I have come back periodically during the bucolic Giuliani days when families came back to the city and it became so safe that some people criticised it for being like Disneyland. So now I arrive back in the middle of the de Blasio years in 2019, and the signs of disorder were everywhere. And I feel like the Eric Adams interregnum, although obviously he was nowhere near perfect, there was some sort of ability that he had as a former cop himself, hiring Jessica Tisch to bring law and order, to start bringing it back again to a city which had fallen into a trajectory that was heading down to the pre-Giuliani bad old days. And we have seen already what a mayor like Mamdani, who is a defund the police acolyte, It doesn't matter what he says now. He was dragged kicking and screaming to endorse Jessica Tisch and say that he would finally, having disavowed her and said nothing and pretended that he didn't hear the question, he finally had to say yes, you know, he was going to have Jessica Tisch probably as keep her on for a while anyway. This is a man who has airy-fairy ideas, like Ross just told you, that have been tried and failed all over the world about having social workers and mental health. It sounds utopian. What a wonderful idea. It would be much better to actually fund mental health beds and get people into them before they end up being violent on the street. But anyone who has lived in this city knows what it's like, and especially after the pandemic, and will be again, having mentally ill, violent people roaming the subways, roaming the streets, pushing people in front of subways, just making, giving an air of menace to the city and forcing a lot of people like me to be afraid of catching the subway. So we've seen that kind of utopian vision before. I don't think New Yorkers are so naive that they would believe that Zohran Mamdani is going to make law and order his first point of business. However, I do understand the attraction, because the alternatives are not attractive, because in the Democratic Party, young voters have been so badly let down. They've had a gerontocracy in Washington, D.C., running everything. The Democratic establishment is just a decayed, corrupt rump of a party. And young people saw with Joe Biden that they'd been lied to and betrayed. So, of course, there is going to be a generational change. There needs to be in this country in politics. And so this is a change election, and young people see Zohran Mamdani as the answer to their dreams. They don't really care. They just want to burn the house down because the house has been terrible. And that's what Mamdani, the only thing he promises, is to burn the house down. And he's never built anything, so it means nothing to him to burn the house down. And anybody who has lived in this city back in the pre-Giuliani days knows what it's like and how difficult it is and how brutal it is to bring it back. And I know that there's an argument that, and I mean, Ross touched on it when he talked about Trump, because of course Mamdani supporters always try to change the topic by appealing to Trump hatred, which is big. I mean, Trump derangement syndrome is like a rite of passage in this city. So that's kind of a cheap trick. But I've heard the argument that sort of Trumpish right populism, MAGA populism, is the other side of the coin from the left-wing populism that Mamdani supposedly embodies. And I just think that that is a threadbare argument, because although there is superficially some sort of logic to it, the left-wing populism is very different, 30 seconds, is very different from right-wing populism, because right-wing populism is about building things. It's about inspiring people to share the wealth and to create wealth, to build wealth. Left-wing populism is driven by envy. It's driven by coercion to take wealth from people who've earned it. And it never works. It's never worked anywhere. It just drives more envy, more hatred, more anger, and an inability to build anything or create a healthy economy.
You know, something I think that was very interesting that Zohran Mamdani did as he was thinking about running for mayor was he went to two areas of the city where Trump had clear, overwhelming support. And he asked those people why they were supporting Trump. And a lot of them were Democrats, right? This is a largely Democratic city. And what he kept getting back, and you may have heard this in interviews, is that people just couldn't make ends meet. And they no longer thought that their government, their city government, was going to do anything about it. And he took that to heart. And what came out of that was a series of policy planks that focused entirely on how do we keep New Yorkers in New York? And the big ones that you've heard a little bit about here are make buses free and fast and free, universal child care, and then what else? What do we have? Grocery stores. And then how do we just make it possible for people in the city to stay here with a rent freeze, right? None of these things are new ideas. Previous mayors have done rent freezes through the Rent Guidelines Board. We have a starting point with universal child care, with universal pre-K, which, whether or not you like de Blasio, has been a huge success, both enabling parents to go to work and also getting kids early education. That's a net win. You can say you hate de Blasio, still a good thing. And that laid the groundwork for this policy. In the pilot bus program, and he did do a lot of work in the state assembly that he led, they found that people in the most poverty-stricken areas of the city, which is a huge percentage of our city, huge percentage of our kids, started riding the bus more, and they could make it work. And these are all things that have been tried, have been done before, but because people don't like that, and it will mean more of a burden on our wealthiest, people try to make him seem extreme. Media tries to make him seem extreme. But all of these things have been done before, in some cases by people like Bloomberg. I worked for Cuomo, which is kind of a funny hee-ha-ha thing, and I was the first one to come forward about sexual harassment. I feel very safe in a city where a man is listening to his constituents and saying, you know what, it seems like they want Jessica Tisch. She may not be my pick. She may not have been the pick of people who have helped uplift me, but what I am hearing is that she is important to making people feel safe. He's listening. I also feel much safer in a city where you have a group of people connected to the policing system that are dealing with the backlog of people experiencing homelessness. The reason why cops are doing so much overtime is because they're overloaded with calls they should never be taking in the first place, which means we are making the city less safe for ourselves by having them deal with all of those things. Mamdani isn't having, he's not gonna have this new community policing group deal with domestic violence survivors, which is what people say when they wanna use scare tactics that have nothing to do with reality. It's really just to answer and help with the calls that should never be to the police in the first place. So it will help police, and he'll be keeping those numbers of policing. He's not defunding the police, he said that. Don't we want politicians who listen and say, you know what, I had this belief, but now this is what my city is telling me, we want something different? People know me for the sexual harassment stuff, but I was Cuomo's business person, and I had a chance to listen to Mamdani speak at the Crane's Business Breakfast. And I loved what I heard, because when I talked to businesses overseeing the state's economic development, it was all about affordability. How can they attract employees to come to the city? And it's impossible because it's too expensive. They can't retain good talent unless it's at the highest levels. And what he's talking about dealing with is exactly that. He made a case for, listen, I may not be your first choice CEO, maybe the Partnership for New York doesn't want me, but I'm still going to address your problems. And I think that's pretty powerful. That was the number one issue that I heard CEOs make when I was dealing with job creation in the state. That, and also affordable housing. That is the other plank of his policy platform. That is exactly what he's responding to. And I think that's exactly what we want. When he doesn't respond to the attacks on him, I think it's because he doesn't want to get stuck in those attacks. He's got important work to do, and he wants everyone to hear it. And I think he's very focused on people feeling safe around him and his administration. Just today, a large Satmar community in Brooklyn said, don't you dare call this man anti-Semitic. We're not endorsing him, but that is an unfair thing to do. We all have to live in this city. He's speaking with us. And this is a group of people that is probably the most visibly Jewish in this city. I think that's a really powerful thing to say. I think it's also really powerful to say that he will go to Abney, he will go to Bloomberg, he will meet with anyone, and he'll be responsive to that. You don't have to be a socialist to think that affordability is what is making people leave here. And finally, on the tax issue, Massachusetts did this very same thing. People didn't leave, and they raised the income tax for the highest earners more than he is proposing to, and they did not leave. We literally have the data. as far as our corporate tax rate increase that he's proposing would be. It's just to be in line with New Jersey. So, you know, there's a lot of scare tactics. I think what he would say if he was here is he'd love to talk about them. He'd love to address them. I don't think he's presenting himself, and I think he's done a good job because he likes people, which isn't that great as opposed to the one I worked for who hates people. He's listening. And I think it's powerful that he's listening to people who say the most outright smears and lies about him. So I'm excited to engage in this conversation.
So I now ask all four of the debaters to pick a mic. Doesn't matter which color. And I will just pose a few questions, but I really want them to engage openly and in a loose and organic way rather than me pointing at each one. So take the conversation away. So that's my kind of moderator's privilege, about 15 minutes of questions and then 15 minutes from the audience. And so I'll start with the pro side. Pro being not pro Mamdani, but pro the resolution, which is this House is terrified of Mamdani. And that is this question. I think you already hinted at it, Miranda, but let's unpack it. So Zohran Mamdani, for the most part, if you listen to the national coverage about him, it's all about, you know, Israel and Hamas and this and that. But for the most part, he's run on affordability. He's not run on defund, as the con side pointed out. He ran on supporting Jessica Tisch and disavowing defund the police and so on. So isn't New York City unaffordable? And what do you have to say to the lots of young New Yorkers who are rallying to his cause, many of whom have, you know, they're trapped in the so-called two-income trap, meaning that they cannot sustain themselves unless both of them works. What do you say to the affordability problem? So that's for the pro side. Please, either of you.
If you're seeing my face, that means that you have not become a subscriber in time, and you're only going to get the first 15-minute preview of this live debate. If you want to watch the rest of this live event, then go to unheard.com/live. It's that simple. And then you get everything UnHerd has to offer. That's long-form journalism, podcasts, videos, everything. Plus, this debate on Mayor Mamdani as it happens. Go to unheard.com/live and join up now. If you're seeing my face, I'm afraid that means your 15-minute free preview of this event debating Mayor Mamdani is over. If you want to continue watching, and I don't blame you if you do, just go to unherd.com/live and become a subscriber. It's that simple, and you can pick up exactly where you left off. What are you doing? If you're waiting around to see if this stream is going to come back online, it's not. But you can remedy that very easily. Just go to unherd.com/live and become a subscriber. Then you can watch the rest of this event, plus all of our other live streams as they happen. Want to see who wins our debate on Mayor Mamdani live from New York? Well, you're going to have to become a subscriber. Go to unherd.com/live and join the UnHerd family. We're all free thinkers here. Go to unherd.com/live and you can pick up exactly where you left off. What are you doing? If you're waiting around to see if this stream is going to come back online, it's not. But you can remedy that very easily. Just go to unherd.com/live and become a subscriber. Then you can watch the rest of this event, plus all of our other live streams as they happen. Want to see who wins our debate on Mayor Mamdani live from New York? Well, you're going to have to become a subscriber. Go to unherd.com/live and join the UnHerd family. We're all free thinkers here. Go to unherd.com/live and you can pick up exactly where you left off. Want to see who wins our debate on Mayor Mamdani live from New York? Well, you're going to have to become a subscriber. Go to unherd.com/live and join the UnHerd family. We're all free thinkers here. Go to unherd.com/live and you can pick up exactly where you left off. What are you doing? If you're waiting around to see if this stream is going to come back online, it's not. But you can remedy that very easily. Just go to unherd.com/live and become a subscriber. Then you can watch the rest of this event, plus all of our other live streams as they happen. Want to see who wins our debate on Mayor Mamdani live from New York? Well, you're going to have to become a subscriber. Go to unherd.com/live and join the UnHerd family. We're all free thinkers here. Go to unherd.com/live and you can pick up exactly where you left off. If you're seeing my face, I'm afraid that means your 15-minute free preview of this event debating Mayor Mamdani is over. If you want to continue watching, and I don't blame you if you do, just go to unherd.com/live and become a subscriber. It's that simple, and you can pick up exactly where you left off. Want to see who wins our debate on Mayor Mamdani live from New York? Well, you're going to have to become a subscriber. Go to unherd.com/live and join the UnHerd family. We're all free thinkers here. Go to unherd.com/live and you can pick up exactly where you left off. What are you doing? If you're waiting around to see if this stream is going to come back online, it's not. But you can remedy that very easily. Just go to unherd.com/live and become a subscriber. Then you can watch the rest of this event, plus all of our other live streams as they happen. If you're seeing my face, I'm afraid that means your 15-minute free preview of this event debating Mayor Mamdani is over. If you want to continue watching, and I don't blame you if you do, just go to unherd.com/live and become a subscriber. It's that simple, and you can pick up exactly where you left off. Want to see who wins our debate on Mayor Mamdani live from New York? Well, you're going to have to become a subscriber. Go to unherd.com/live and join the UnHerd family. We're all free thinkers here. Go to unherd.com/live and you can pick up exactly where you left off. What are you doing? If you're waiting around to see if this stream is going to come back online, it's not. But you can remedy that very easily. Just go to unherd.com/live and become a subscriber. Then you can watch the rest of this event, plus all of our other live streams as they happen. Want to see who wins our debate on Mayor Mamdani live from New York? Well, you're going to have to become a subscriber. Go to unherd.com/live and join the UnHerd family. We're all free thinkers here. Go to unherd.com/live and you can pick up exactly where you left off. If you're seeing my face, I'm afraid that means your 15-minute free preview of this event debating Mayor Mamdani is over. If you want to continue watching, and I don't blame you if you do, just go to unherd.com/live and become a subscriber. It's that simple, and you can pick up exactly where you left off. Want to see who wins our debate on Mayor Mamdani live from New York? Well, you're going to have to become a subscriber. Go to unherd.com/live and join the UnHerd family. We're all free thinkers here. Go to unherd.com/live and you can pick up exactly where you left off.